Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, the Soul Igniter, and today I am joined by the beautiful Nikki, the Soul Shifter. You can already guess by our titles, this is going to be epic. And today we are going to be talking about how to ground your nervous system. And I've never heard the connection between grounding and your nervous system before. So I've been really looking forward to this topic, Nikki, and I feel very, very grateful that you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So we've been chatting for a while, and we've discovered that we have many, many different similarities, and we've gone through similar paths, and that is really awesome, right? To connect with people who truly get it and who went through a similar journey. But I can also still very much remember how I was feeling before this journey started. So maybe that is a good place to start our talk today.
Yes, definitely. So if we fast forward probably about 6 or 7 years, I had really started tapping into, I've always been someone who was on that self-development journey. Like I've always wanted to be my best self. And as I was going through my divorce, once I left the divorce, like I thought that once I left my marriage, I thought that, okay, like this is going to be my fresh start. But that's when things actually started to really fall apart. And so for about 4 years, I really went through this process of trying to get the divorce and battling with my ex, who's very narcissistic. And so my nervous system was a wreck. And I really had to um, really start to like take some space
Mhm.
and recognize like why I was being triggered and what I was actually feeling and then moving through those emotions. And as I started doing this work, more consistently, I really started to see like a shift within myself. And even though my outside reality was still pretty chaotic, I was able to kind of create this inner peace for myself. And I could see the power in that and I could see how special it was. And then as I was talking to, other people in the community and the collective and a lot of women, they were like feeling the same exact way as me and things were coming up for them in the same exact way. And so I'm like, I really need to create something to really help people and show people like, hey, this is first of all like that awareness of like, hey, this is what's going on with you, because I
Mhm.
think sometimes we're so busy, right? It's like we don't even have the time to deal with it. We're just like, oh, that's normal. I get upset and then I move on and, I have to cook dinner and I have to do this. And so to give yourself that time and space to slow down is something that we're not really taught. And so
Mhm.
just kind of teaching people or giving people, right, that awareness of like, hey, it's normal. You're not alone. We're all feeling this and experiencing it and going through it. And this is kind of like a bunch of tools that I used on my journey. And hey, if they work for you, like dig through and see what works for you and really start to practice. And so, I do have a teaching kindergarten background. So I have that philosophy kind of like I do, we do, you do. And so I'm always trying to, lead people with the knowledge, the tools, and resources to really help them, on their journey because I could see so many people, including myself, that was really struggling with this and feeling like, my body is not a safe place. And if my body is not a safe place, then I really can't deal with my emotions that are coming up either because everything is spiraling, right? Because it's like when our body responds and our mind starts to spiral and it's just this whole process. And so I really started to say to myself, okay, first I need to calm my body and then I need to like deal with my emotions and work through them and move through them. And so that's kind of in a workshop, that's kind of what I teach in that workshop. But it's just, a piece of what I see so many people, struggling with and on our journeys. We all have that past experience or that past trauma that, whether it's, that toxic ex or whatever it is, it's like we all have experienced that need to heal, right? And that need to grow. And so I just think it's so beautiful, especially like that kindergarten background of like those little ones coming in and like not really knowing their letters and sounds. And then like by the end being able to read and just like blossoming. And so I feel like, working with the community and working with people, it's just so beautiful to watch people like expand and grow into who they're truly meant to be, and just see the joy within them. And being able to release that like emotional baggage of what's been, dragging along with them.
Exactly, because it goes even deeper than that, right? Of course,
Yes.
people have the trauma, but there's also it goes deeper than the trauma. I think it already starts with us not being who we actually are. We
Hmm.
are trying to fit into a mold that's not meant for us. We are trying to conform to a society that isn't who we actually are, and that in general is the reason for us attracting these traumatic events. And
Yeah.
so a lot of highly sensitive people and a lot of empaths attract narcissistic relationships because we are very open, we're very loving, we're very giving, and we tend to forget ourselves in the process. We're
Mhm.
always there for other people. We are happiest when everybody else around us is happy. And that is, of course, like a playground for the narcissist because the narcissist
Mhm.
wants this attention. It wants to be the center of everything in your world. It wants to be sort of adored and it wants to be taken care of, but they don't give anything back.
Mhm.
So we feel the need for the narcissist. We give and we give and we give, and the narcissist takes and takes and takes, but we don't get anything in return. Is that
Mhm.
also your experience?
Yes. And, I am a true believer in that, everything happens for a reason and that our present life is really always trying to show us or push us to see what we're having a hard time seeing. Right. And so, you know, people think I'm crazy sometimes because I always say, I'm so grateful for my narcissist ex. And people are like, how could you? Like, you've been through so much with him.
Mm,
But through him and through that experience, I was able to find myself, right? I was able to reclaim my power. I was able to find healthy boundaries and really
mhm,
stand firm on them. And like you said, being an empath, always pouring into other people, especially being a healer too, it's like we forget to put that energy into ourselves. And I think over the last, 5 or 6 years, I've been really shifting that perspective of like, oh, you're a good person and you're a good girl if, you take care of everyone and you do everything for everyone. And now that I'm like filling my own cup first, I can just feel a shift and a change within my own energy and just
mhm,
being able to show up in such a bigger way for everyone else too, because it's like now I actually have people in my life who love and support me and see me because it's like through that experience, I'm like, okay, now I know what it kind of feels like to experience love because I'm pouring that love into myself. Like I know what those boundaries feel like. And so I just started cutting, all the toxicity out. And it was a process, right?
mhm.
And a very painful one because it's like usually the people that we love the most that we really have to separate ourselves sometimes. But I just think that through those narcissistic relationships, we're really given the opportunity to be able to find ourselves, to be able to reclaim our power, and to really see who we are through um, like also a reflection of who we're not too, you know what I mean? I feel like
Mhm,
sometimes they're like, that's not because I feel like a lot of times with a narcissist, they try to project their feelings onto us, thinking and
mhm.
making us hold them, right? Like they're our own. And then when you sit back, you're like, well, that's not really true. I'm not really like that, or that's not really the situation. And so that's why, like you were saying, we're so out of sync. The systems that this world has, taught us and provides for us is really out of sync with our energy. And I think that, a lot of people are just tired, right? We're like fed up and overwhelmed and stressed out because we're not meant to be moving like robots all the time and constantly on that hamster wheel. And so, like, trying to teach people, like, hey, rest is not lazy. It's actually pretty productive. You can actually get a lot done when you rest, actually. And people, have a hard time wrapping their heads around that sometimes. But it's like when you start to actually embody those practices and really start to pour into yourself, you're like, wow, this is what I've been missing out on. Like, is this what, and you really start
Yeah,
to see that shift. So I think
exactly.
it's just important, really trying to, like, always give people the tools to bring things back to themselves, because I think that every experience that we have, is really for our soul to grow, right? That everything outside of us is a mirror. And so when we can kind of, especially being an empath, I think one of the biggest things that helped me was being able to look at people that I loved more like energy, and trying to, like, understand the energy and then discern that energy, and taking away the title of, oh, that's my spouse, that's my mother, that's my sister, that's my brother, and being able to really just feel the energy, and, like, is this something that makes me feel good? And then if it's not, I'm like, okay, I need to move away from this isn't healthy for me.
Mhm.
And just like giving people that, I don't want to use the word permission, but, like, just letting people know that, it's okay to walk away from people. It's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to, like, prioritize your own mental health, because you have so much more to give when you feel, full and happy and complete and safe, and, all the good things. And so um I just really love connecting with people, because I feel like so many people just feel alone. And I feel like, especially with social media, it's kind of like people want to show up in their best self or their best life. And there's a lot of that comparing. And a lot of it is just like that false illusion, too, of that's not even truly what it is. And
Mhm.
so there's just so many outside distractions, and just getting people to come back home to themselves and just like reconnecting with themselves, and really encouraging, my clients to really develop like a daily practice, because um, I just know the benefits of it, right? Because it's like when I do it, I know how
Mhm.
it shifts my energy. I know how I can show up differently in the day, because now I feel empowered and inspired and ready to take on the day, versus, in that sad girl energy of, oh, dealing with a narcissist, And so
Mhm.
it's not easy, but, we do have that choice. And so I think, just being able to lean on each other and share our experiences and our stories is just so powerful and important, so people can connect and know that they're not alone.
Exactly, and everything that you're saying is absolutely true, but it's also already an advanced stage of the journey. And when
Mm,
people are still in the beginning stage of the journey, it's sometimes really hard for them to feel into this and to know all of this. And I think that that's because of a lot of misconceptions. I call them the rules, the bullshit rules of life. And so
mm,
we learn from our parents, from our teachers, from society, how we are supposed to act, how we are supposed to behave. We get berated when we behave in a not socially accepted way. We get steered into the direction of what other people think is socially accepted behavior. And the
mm,
combination of all of these things make us wander away from who we really are when we do not fit into that mold. And then we try to please people. I was one who wore different types of masks. I had a mask for when I was with my friends. I had a
mhm,
mask for when I was at home. It turned out I had two different masks for when I was at work, one for when I was dealing with the boss and one for when I was dealing with my coworkers. And
mhm,
so many people are in this situation where they follow the rules of life without asking themselves, is this true for me?
mm,
Is this really how I want to be acting? Is this really who I am? Is this really something that fits me, that fits who I am deep in my core? Most people have no idea
mhm,
truly are. And they just live their life and they follow the golden standard, right? Get
mhm,
a good education, find a good job, find a good partner, get married, get children, beautiful house, maybe switch your job two, three times, and then
Mm.
stay there until you retire, raise your kids, and be a responsible, good role model parent, basically. But
Yeah.
they don't really stop to think, well, what does that look like for me?
Hmm.
Lots of people, women especially, don't want to be a mom. They don't want to have children, but they just go into the machine,
Hmm. This
into
is
a
what is
marriage.
expected of me.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have many clients who are ashamed to admit that they don't like their children and that they wish they never had children. And they
Mhm.
feel like a horrible mother for saying things like that. And society looks at people who thinks like that as a horrible mother, but they just don't see that someone didn't really choose to become a mom. They just went along with what everybody else wanted without
Mhm.
stopping to see
Yeah.
what they want. So I think that's already where things go wrong. We get pushed into this machine, and at the end of the machine, everybody comes out more or less the same. But there's a big group of people who do not fit that mold, who do not fit into that ideal picture, who do not want. There are obvious examples like the gay people, and they
Mhm.
don't fit into the stereotype of finding a partner from a different sex and then having children with them. But there are also people who still are in a different sex relationships, but then just don't feel like they landed where they're supposed to. So I think it starts with asking yourself, is this true for me?
Mm.
Is
That's
this who you really
exactly.
want?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's exactly where everything that you just said, I'm like, that's where I had my moment because um when COVID hit, I was teaching, I was married, I had the family, I was doing all the right things. Like I went to college and I'm like, I'm not happy. Like this is not what I thought my life would be like. And for me, it was the opposite. I was like, I really enjoy being a mother and I really wanted to be home. I didn't want to have to be a working mother. I'm like, I didn't sign up to be a mother to have my kids with somebody else all day. And
Mhm.
so then when I really started to sit with that, I'm like, well, I really want to like grow my own food and I want to. And so I just started thinking about like the things that I really would really like and I started to really realize like you said they were all against kind of the system or what people might think is a little bit different and because I've made those choices, I definitely caught a lot of flack along the way. But I
Mhm.
think, like you said, now that it's like the end of the journey, it's like a lot of people can see, like, oh wow, like she's onto something, or like I can see what she did here now. And I think that that's the biggest thing, right? Is like just being able to surrender into yourself, into your authenticity. And a lot of us don't even know who that is, right? Because like you said, we're
Exactly.
so disconnected. And so just saying to ourselves, like, you know what? I am going to make a commitment to myself today because I am worth it. I deserve it. And really just sitting with ourselves and learning about ourselves and really starting to ask ourselves those questions like, what really makes me feel good? What do I actually want out of this life, and really start to make small moves in order to get to those, outcomes that you really desire. And I just think it's so beautiful to see, people like trailblazing these like new paths where they're like, you know what, I'm living in a tiny home or I'm living in an RV and I'm traveling and I'm doing things differently than society says is acceptable. And I feel like it just gives people that like, oh, I never even thought that was a possibility. And it's like once that happens, I think that's the magic, right? That's that sweet spot of
Yeah.
giving people just that perspective or that, oh, I never even thought that was possible. And
But to
it's
be
just
open to that, we need
yes.
that catalyst that you talked about. So we need to be in that relationship with the narcissistic partner and the marriage that fails, or we need to end up in that severe burnout, or sometimes we need to have a horrible disease, how horrible that sounds, but we
Mhm.
need something earth shattering, something completely turn your life upside downy happening for us to wake up to the notion, oh my God, this isn't working for me. This
Mhm,
life, the way I've been leading it, the way I think I'm supposed to be leading it, it's not working for me.
mhm.
Something usually big needs to happen for us to wake up to the fact that what we've been doing up until then is just not working for us. And
Yes.
that's then when our journey of self-discovery starts, right? It's messy and it's painful, and in the moment you're probably miserable and wondering why is this happening, and it feels horrible. But when you come to the end of it, you start seeing it as maybe the greatest thing that happened to you because it was the
Mm,
start of this change, of this looking at things differently, of exploring things, of stopping and pausing and thinking, but do I want this? Is
mhm,
this really what makes me happy? And if the answer is no, then of course, the next part, the soul searching starts, where you think, okay, so what do I need to be happy? What
mhm,
makes me happy? What is my purpose here in this life? What am I supposed to be doing here? Who am I supposed to be serving? But it starts with first discovering everything about yourself,
mhm,
discovering how beautiful you are, how wonderful you are, how unique you are, what your talents are, what you have to bring to this world, and owning it when that's just not the thing that fits into the standard mold.
mhm. I think it's beautiful to really see people, like stepping into their uniqueness. Like I think for such a long time it was like if you're different then you're weird or and you're outcasted. And now it's almost like all the different people are like the cool kids, right? They're like the ones who are just really happy and authentic and living life by their own terms. And now I think it's just so beautiful that, it's inspiring other people to, like you said, take that time to, sit with yourself, take that
Mhm.
time to discover what's important to you, what, lights your soul on fire, and just being able to give yourself permission, right, to go after those things, to say, you know, um, you brought up how the shame or being shamed, and that was such a huge piece on my journey. I feel like I was very ashamed by my circumstances or guilted by the way that I was moving because I felt so misunderstood, like people didn't understand what I was trying to do.
Mhm.
And it really kept me stuck for a while. And so
Mhm.
I really started to see that, like, wow, when I feel things, my emotions are always trying to like give me information. And
Yes.
so I started looking at my emotions differently and really started to say, okay, like I'm going to feel it, but now I'm going to actually start to like ask myself some questions. I'm going to start to dig in and really start to like get to the bottom of this, right? Get to the core of it. And the more I started to dig into emotions and the body, the more I started to really understand too the way that everything was interconnected. And I
Mhm.
think that that's something else that I get really excited to talk about and to teach people, because like you said, these systems that we've been taught or the way that we've been taught about a lot of things is like half truth or
Outdated, I
a
would
lot
say.
of
It was true when they
misconception,
thought of it.
or it's a system to feed the man and not for the people. And so I'm very for the people, right? And so I'm always trying to um like think about or create different tools or resources to really like help people get into that type of like frequency, right? Of really starting to be able to dive deeper into themselves, to really um understand that, one of the tools that I created and one of the things that I worked on a lot because of my own mental health was I did a lot of affirmation and like mirror work. And the more
Mhm.
that I did it, the more that I realized that, I was like, wow, I had like a mind moment when I was sitting there and I was just thinking about how, women have been really suppressed for such a long time. And then we see so many women with gut health issues. And
Mhm.
the solar plexus is really tied to your personal power, to feeling worthy and deserving and feeling confident, right? And so after being suppressed for so long, it's like you can see why so many women have that gut health issue. And then the more that I was helping, women and myself work through the affirmations and doing reprogramming the mind through like the subconscious mind, I could see that it was actually healing the physical body with some of my clients and with myself. And so I'm like, wow, this is really powerful. And so um it's kind of like my jam. Like I love to like really dive deep and like interconnect the physical body and health and ailments and things like that. And so I just think it's so powerful that when we have that information, right, that we can really start to make better choices for ourselves, and really start to move in a different way, because it's like you can't, it's like a alcoholic, right, trying to get help but not realizing that they're an alcoholic. It's like they can't do that. And so it's the same thing. It's like if we're so disconnected that we don't even know we're disconnected, it's like it's hard for us to dive in and say, but it's like the more that we just take time with ourselves and like you said, really start to ask those deep questions, that's when that magic happens. That's when that real shift starts to happen, and where you really start to step into your power and you can really start to heal yourself, mind, body, and soul, right? And
Yeah,
that's
because everything is connected. The
yeah.
mind and the body are connected, and your soul is connected. It's not that they are separate entities. No, they're all connected to everything, and
Mhm.
you cannot just work on one thing. That's why I'm pro holistic approach, where you take everything and you look at the
Yes.
whole, and you work on the whole in order to release stuff or to heal stuff. And it's not just everything in this physical life. It's also in your DNA. Yeah? So things
Mhm.
from previous lives or things from other generations. When there is a war in your family system, and my grandparents actively lived through the Second World War. So that has a huge impact on my family system and on the beliefs in the family system. And
Mhm.
so this expresses itself as lack because there wasn't anything in war. And they
Mhm.
literally had to eat the bulbs of flowers to stay alive. So there wasn't anything. But it also
Mhm.
translates into how my grandmother, for instance, taught my mother that being different from everybody else is not okay. And that being different from everybody else is something that's undesirable. And she thought that when she taught my mother to be just like everybody else, that she was doing my mother a favor because they saw that everybody who was different was
Mhm.
transported to a concentration camp and killed. And
Yeah.
so, what we don't realize is how much of an impact all of these things have. And now, with neuroscience and epigenetics, they've proven that all of these events are stored in our cell memory, in our DNA. So, whether
Mhm.
or not you believe in these things, whether or not you are aware of these things, it doesn't matter for the influence that it has on your body, on your life, on everything. So, I'm also very happy that more and more people are waking up to the fact you're not a separate identity. Your mind is not separate from your body. Your soul is
Mhm.
not separate from your body or from your mind. Everything is connected, everything is interwoven, and things that many of these rules that we talked about, these rules from society, they came like what I shared for the war, because in that moment they were true, or they were a survival mechanism that helped a lot of people to survive. And then it gets handed down from generation to generation. But the next generation doesn't stop to think, okay, but is this also true for me? Is it also true in today's day and age? Is this still relevant? And I
Mhm.
think that that's where things go wrong, right? When we just blindly accept and take in combination what's already stored in our cells. So it requires a holistic approach to really free yourself from it. And it works on so many different levels. I've many clients who said, oh yeah, but I've worked on this so often. I've done so many healings on this specific part, or I've had so much coaching on this. Why does this keep coming back? Why is this now coming up again? But it, you get many of us see time as something linear, right? Yesterday
Mhm.
was there, and today is here, and tomorrow is there, and it's a straight line. But that's not how time works. It's all connected. It's all interwoven, and there is no linear concept. So that means that
Mhm.
you can deal with certain things on certain levels and be rid of it on that level, but it doesn't mean that it's gone on all of the levels. And when you
Mhm.
grow as a person, when you up level to a new level of consciousness or a new level of yourself, then depending on how deep something went, you might have to release it on that level too.
Mhm. That's one of the things, with the grounding your nervous system workshop. It's broken into 3 parts, and the first part is all about, like, really understanding triggers and what is actually happening because, like, we've discussed, it's like the body keeps score, whether it's, you know, been passed down to us like we've mentioned, or whether it's happened in this lifetime. And so it's just so important that, like you said, it's unfortunate that we have to have some of like those huge painful experiences in our lives, like the breakdown, in order for us to rebuild ourselves, for us to be able to have that awareness. But I think the more that people are sharing and talking about it, I think it opens hopefully more people, right? Like I always hope,
Yes,
like my hope is that if I share my story and everything that I went through, that hopefully someone else won't have to go through as much pain, or their story might be able to be condensed because I can share the lessons that I learned through there.
exactly.
And so that I think is really beautiful that we see so many people really starting to kind of come forward and be more vulnerable. I think we do, or we are starting to see more people, like you said, starting to question those beliefs, those systems, and saying like that doesn't really work for me, like I'm going to try this, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's how real change really starts to happen, and I think that this world definitely needs that, right? And I think so many times that you know in so many different ways this world teaches separation, and that division. We're all different, we're all different, we're all different. But I think at the end of the day, it's like we all want and need the same things, and
Mhm.
we all are one. But we all, I think, as a people, we all want a safe place to live, a safe
We love.
environment for our children, healthy food to eat. And so I think that too, helping people get back to themselves also will hopefully, like, on a macro and micro level, kind of help that distraction of pointing the finger and everybody looking outside, because it's like, okay, everybody's focused inward, and it's like if I'm focused on me and what I can do to kind of show up and make a change, or to then
Mhm.
if we're all going to be working together, that energy is going to be amplified out. And so that's really what, like, my vision is. I've always, like, since I was a little girl, like I never understood like why the world, like, or people just, like, everybody couldn't get along. I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, why can't everybody just get along? And so I think now as I'm older, it's like I just see a lot of adults walking around like wounded children, and not being
Mhm.
able to really um feel seen and heard and feel safe in this world. And so just saying and being vulnerable, like, my social media, I try to be very vulnerable on my social media, because it's like I want people to see another side, not just like all the highlights and all the best things. And
Look at my
because
Ferrari and my castle and all of that
yes,
thing. Yes.
yes. It's like we are all, going through the same things. And I was at an event yesterday, and the woman was talking about how, you know, being overweight or being really thin, she was like, her and her friend were um two different body shapes. And she was saying how they were both having the same conversation about not being comfortable in their body, about having body dysmorphia, about, and it's just, so it's so, I think it's so interesting to see that we all struggle with a lot of the same things, and it's okay to express that. It's okay to share that. It's okay to um ask for help and tell people you need help, or to lean on your community. And that's the other piece, right, is finding community, finding like-minded people. And I feel as you start to open up on this journey and you start to find yourself, it's like your community naturally finds you, right? And so you don't have to look too far, because it's like you start to meet all these amazing people who just see you and get you and encourage you and empower you. And that's, where you want to be. That's who you want to surround yourself around too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just beautifully summed up most of the whys behind my channel, my YouTube channel, and behind these podcasts.
Mm,
Because when I was going through all of this, there wasn't anything out there. And people often ask me, well, what is your biggest transformation then? And I think that it is when I was younger, I used to think that I was weird. And I
mm.
thought that I was strange. And I really seriously thought that there was something wrong with me, that I was broken and that I needed to be fixed. And now I think I'm weird and I'm strange and you bring it on.
Yes, right?
Own that shit and
Yes.
loving it. And so that's a huge shift in perspective because I'm still thinking I'm weird and I'm strange, but I no longer see it as broken or in something that needs to be fixed. No, it is who I am. And I was talking to a friend about it this week actually, where I think, most of my life I really worked hard to get people to like me, to fit in, to have friends. And now I think, you like me or you don't like me. Honestly, I don't care anymore. I want to
Yes.
say I don't care, and then I wanted to hold it back, but no, I don't care anymore because I like me.
Hmm.
I like who I am. I like my big heart. I like what I do. I like what I do for other people. I like my community. I like my website. I like my podcast. I like what I do. And if you don't like it, well, that's also fine. You don't have to
Hmm.
like me, but it's no longer influencing me in the fact or in the sense that I think that I need to be fixed or that there's something wrong with me. No.
Or stop me, right?
Exactly, or stop it.
Yeah.
And so, if you are watching and you're listening to our talking, I would love it if you could maybe share in the comments your personal story. If you still feel that you're weird and strange and that you need to be fixed, or have you already reached the point where you think I'm weird and I'm loving it and I'm beautiful the way I am? I would really love to hear that from you. But it's very, very important, especially in the world from now where everything is massively changing and we are shifting from a very masculine dominated world where everything was about
Mm.
facts and goal setting and the mind and logic to the intangible. So to the intuition, to the gut feeling, to the creativity, to the feminine side. And that this is a big shift. And
Hmm.
a lot of people are having their panties in a twist and they are not liking it and they're seeing everything crumble. And sorry to say, gurus, most of you are in this category where what you used to teach and what you used to say is no longer working and people are no longer buying it because time after time you haven't kept your promises and you have let people go down the drain without giving them
Yeah.
a life jacket or a rope or anything to catch themselves on. So we are now facing an era where it's so important that you really let go of I'm supposed to be this or I should be doing there or I must be this type of person and go within because in the end all of the answers that everybody is seeking are already within you.
Mm.
Sometimes you just need a soul shifter or a soul igniter to help you connect with that.
Hmm.
But it is already within you, right?
Exactly. Just giving people that awareness. One of the things that you just said that hit me so hard was, um, you were talking about spiritual gurus and things like that. And one of the things that, so my community that I created, one of the reasons why I really created it was because when I first started my spiritual journey and I was in that dark night of the soul and we were doing all that yucky work, I was seeing, a shaman very regularly. But as things kind of got crazy with the divorce and my finances, I couldn't afford to
Go
um
in.
to do
Mhm.
that anymore. And so then I was like on my own island. And I really thought that I had built relationships with the healers that I was working with and the people and so not that I would ever like expect free work, but just like if I had a question or whatever, it was like, well, book a session. well, go book this $3,000 program. And I'm like, and so that really bothered me, right? Because it's like, I really needed the help. I was really on my own island. And they kind of were like, well, you can manifest it. That's a you problem, because if you wanted it bad enough, you could manifest that money. And
Yeah.
so then when I didn't, I'm like, oh man, I guess and so with my community, one of the things that I realized working one-on-one with clients too is like, people need a lot more than a one and done session. Like, people need
Yes.
support, people need help, people just want to feel like they're a part of something, right? And that's why am starting my Soul Shifter Revolution, because not only do I want that community piece, but like the systems and the things that we talked about, those are the things that I also want to change. And I
Yeah.
think if we come together and we work together, I think that we can do that, and we can really create that positive change, that those, and create that kind of life that we talked about earlier, where all people want the same things.
Yeah.
And so I think we are a part of like the greatest shift, right? And
Yes.
moving into the age of Aquarius, it's just like so beautiful to be alive right now, and to be a part of watching that old system crumble, which I think a lot of people might be in fear about, right? Because a lot
Mm.
of people are like, is the world ending? And so
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful to say, like, no, something beautiful is being like rebirthed, right? We're like restructuring things for the people, so that everyone can have like what they need, and we can all tap into our abundance. We can all remember who we are, and that and journey back home. And
Mm.
so I think that, both of us, through the work that we do, that is really our goal, right? Is like helping people
Yes.
um through the tools and through our stories, but helping people find their own magic from within, and not trying to say like, this is my way, and trying to
Yeah.
force things onto people. And I just think it's so beautiful, like, to just see people unfold and to just step into their magic,
Yeah.
and it's a
I'm
beautiful thing to watch.
I'm very happy that you said that, because my community is called Solutions, Solutions of the Soul, and
Hmm.
I had one of my members who was really struggling with something, so she booked a session with me. And if you follow the teachings of the gurus that I also had when they taught me how to sell and sell your market and sell your services, then you should have charged for that session. And I
Hmm.
thought, that doesn't feel okay. So in the end, I had a session with her, I think 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I didn't even cap it at a certain time. I just let the energy flow, and she was so grateful, and I really helped her shift and move forward to it. And I didn't charge her for that time,
Hmm.
because she is a part of my community, and it didn't feel okay to do that.
I at I'm just in the process of creating this community. And it's funny because in the past, I would like my friends or people that work with me. That's one of the things they always say to me, because I always get random messages about all these different things and all these different questions. And I always answer people. Like, I'm never like book a session or
Mhm.
anything like that. And so it's funny because I just have always done it naturally. And after
Exactly.
doing it for a while now, it's like people are like, you always answer my questions. Like, you always, are so, and it's like, because my motivation, my intention is to help people, right? It's not to build a business. It's not to make a lot of money. It's really to help people and to shift this world. Like, that's what drives me and what sets my soul on fire. And so I'm like, whatever, the money will come. I know that, you know what I mean? That's just like a material thing. That's not something that, and, and one of the things that, I was working with my guides on is, they kind of were like, when you were going through your journey, like, what kind of teacher and leader did you need? And how did you, and so I loved how you mentioned, like, even though you have a community and you had that opportunity to like make a sale, you chose, I just want to help and support people. And my guides were really leaning on me towards, what, like, who, when we think about, that health and wellness and the spirituality umbrella, I feel like we always know that we're kind of like servicing the wealthy, right? It's like a lot, that's who tend to have the money or are investing in themselves at a high level. And when I sit back and I think about like who really needs the help and who do I want to help and who is like my community because of the way that I grew up, I'm like, I really want to touch a lot of people. And so when I was structuring my community at first, I was doing it like you said, like all the mentors and everybody telling me in the business field, like this is the way you got to structure it. But now it's like I'm offering my community for $5 a month. Like I want to pour into that one community and I want as many people in the world in that community as possible because I have big dreams for it. And I think that we can really create big change. And so it's like I want to help as many people in, and I don't want money to ever be a barrier of someone not being able to get the help and support that they really need.
Exactly.
And so I just think it's like beautiful that, like you said, it's like you're doing it in your own way, and like it's not
Yeah.
a money thing, right? It's because we
No.
have that deep desire to help people and to shift
Yeah.
people and to support people because we know what it
Yes.
feels like to not have that support, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I have exactly the same philosophy. So there are many different ways in which you can join my community. It starts with $3.33 and it goes
I
up
love
to
that.
$55.55. So anywhere in between, there are different levels in which you can join because not everybody has the same type of wallet. So for me, it's more indeed like you about intention, about a
Mm.
drive, about a desire, because there are so many people like you and like me who really want a lot, but life has just dealt them a shitty hand, and
Yeah.
their finances are not there where they can just do a 10K program with them or a 50K program with what's
Mhm.
his name. And then especially sad is it when you find or you lend, because that's what people teach you to ask family or maybe take a credit card and then lend the money to
Mhm.
step into it, and then you fail them because you're not delivering, and then
Yes.
you leave them hanging with a big debt. That's something that goes against everything that I stand for. So in that, we truly are soul sisters, and
Yes.
very happy that we are connecting here today.
Me
I can
too.
also imagine that you, listener out there, viewer out there, you've been listening to us talk, and you might be thinking, "Oh, I want to know more." So, where can people reach you, or where can people find you, Nikki? How can they connect with you?
So I do have Instagram and TikTok. My Instagram and TikTok are the Soul Shifter. So THEE Soul Shifter. And then I also have a YouTube channel, which is the underscore Soul Shifter. And my website is soulshifterrevolution.com. So people can find me there, and definitely check out and join the wait list for the Soul Shifter Revolution community if you're interested in that resonates and you feel called. Um, and there's lots of healing resources and journals and books and things like that that people can check out as well.
I love it. Don't worry if this went too fast. I will make sure that all the links that Nikki just mentioned are included in the show notes. They will probably be below this video or maybe to the sides or above. It depends kind of on where you're catching this, but it will be somewhere around the video and you will have absolutely no problem connecting with Nikki. I love that you were here, Nikki, and I loved your story, your journey, and the fact that you're willing to share your wisdom. So thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you so
and for
much
being
for
here.
having me. Thank you so much. It was an honor, and I can't wait to, see what else we create together.
Exactly.
I feel like this is just the beginning.
Me too. Yes, I totally agree. I loved our talk. I loved our conversation. I hope that you out there loved it as much as we did. It would be amazing if you could subscribe to the channel so you will never miss another one of these great talks again. Maybe you could also like it or share it with your tribe if you feel that we talked about things that people that you know also need to hear about. We would be very grateful if you would do that. And I would love to inspire you with another beautiful guest in next week's episode. For today, I wish you an amazing rest of your day, and I love seeing you again really soon. Bye for now.